Hey, it's Brother Peterson, and this is it. Week 13. Did you ever think you were going to get here? I know I wasn't. But you did it. You made it. So give yourself a giant hug. Pat yourself on the back. Give high fives to your roommates. You know, your spouse, your kids, give me a little noogie. Hey! Because it's exciting. You made it to the last week. It's going to be an exciting week, too. It's going to be one of these weeks that you're going to go, oh, yeah. Well, maybe not. But it's going to be a week that kind of wraps everything together. And I think it's an exciting week. I can get so excited I'm getting tongue-tied. But I think it's exciting because, once again, we talked about this last week, it's going to bring everything together. And why is that important? Well, it's important because this is a pretty tough class. We think about all the topics we've talked about. We've talked about all the way from assisted suicide. We've talked about marijuana. We talked about abortion. We've talked about pro football. We've talked about concussions in pro football. We've talked about what all we talked about? We've talked about a lot of things, okay? And now we're going to talk about kind of wrapping it up together and the trends that are going on in healthcare these days and what we see in the future, which is kind of exciting. And really, it's an unknown. I went to a conference a couple weeks ago, and it was on graduate medical education. And one of the head, the CEO of the ACGME, which is a accrediting body for most graduate medical education programs, basically said, you know what? In America, we don't know what the future is going to be in 5 years, 10 years. He said, if you were to go to almost any other country, you would be able to know, yeah, this is what healthcare is going to look like in 5 years, in 10 years, and even 20 years, but not in the United States. Why is that? Well, part of it is because we do not have currently state-sponsored, or I should say socialized medicine. Okay, we have an insurance-based. In fact, I was up in Canada a couple years ago, and I was in a store talking to the clerk. I was buying a whole bunch of candy bars because when you go to places like that, it's fun to go eat their candy. Anyway, hey, you like my BYU Idaho tie? Okay, back to the story. So I was eating or buying some candy bars, and we were talking about, oh yeah, I'm from the United States and so forth and so on. And they said, well, how does your medical system work? You have insurance, and how does that work? And do you get insurance from your work, or do you have to pay for it, and so forth and so on? And I thought for a second, I said, it's something that we in the United States, it's just the way we have medical care in some place like Canada that doesn't operate on an insurance-based system. It's very new to them, and it was something strange. Well, we're going to debate that. The Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is probably going to change. It's kind of interesting that we put into, the United States elected somebody who ran on the platform, Donald Trump, who ran on the platform of changing the Affordable Care Act. We'll see if that happens. So, either way, it's going to be an exciting debate because I want you to look at what is good about the Affordable Care Act, what needs to change in your mind, or what needs to stay the same. It doesn't matter on what side you're on. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit confusing, but you need to read the instructions. All right, if your last name is at the beginning or the end, you're going to be pro Affordable Care Act. If you're one of the 1, 2, or 3 people in the middle, you're going to be anti or against the Affordable Care Act. But either way, I want you to be the guy or gal drafting the legislation. How would you draft it? Would you keep most of it and argue that the Affordable Care Act is good? Or would you take it all out and give something different. But even if you take something, give something different, I want you to be able to argue why, and why what you're proposing is better. Okay? I just don't want you to say, well, it's bad, or, oh, it's great. I want some real thought put into it. Okay? All right. And of course, we kind of briefly mentioned this. You're going to talk about trends, and that's something, as well as technologies for the future. And that's kind of exciting because there's a lot of stuff. At the university where my day job, where I teach, we are constantly looking for innovative ways to teach medicine. And sometimes it gets very expensive, but sometimes it's kind of exciting to see some of the technologies that are out there in being able to provide care and also to teach. And it's pretty neat. So look at some of those technologies, and they're in your text, and pick some, do some research on your own, and write me a paper that's due Wednesday. Okay. The other thing I want to mention before I forget is don't forget your extra credit. You need some extra credit. It's only worth 20 points, but still, do it. Okay, it's easy. It's a piece of cake. Okay, and then you're going to have your after debate assessment, so once again, the whole debate's worth 40 points, which is a lot of thing. You get 10 points for your first post, 10 for your second post, and 20 for the assessment. Okay, so don't forget that assessment. And then, of course, you have your end of course evaluation. And I'm awesome, so And and so I look forward to reading your critiques and so forth. But this is going to be the last time you see me, and I want to just tell you that it has been a real pleasure to have you a part of my life, and allowing you to share me this semester with you. And hopefully it's been an enjoyable time. So I wanted to come and sit by the fire with you for my last little discussion with you, and I wanted to show you this. Okay? Yes. Well, what is that? Well, I bought this in Germany. Okay, and you can look at it different ways. You could say, oh well, that's we don't, root beer, or it could be something that you put some gunpowder in, and you load up that musket. But I look at this as not anything really. I mean, in fact, I really don't even know what this would be for. I suppose it could be a variety of things. But what I see here is something that's made of silver, and something that has value. Okay, and it may have more value to me because I look at this and I say, wow, I bought that when I was in Germany, and it has pretty cool meaning to me. Okay, and it may not have as much meaning to you. But when I think about things that have meaning in our life, when I think about things that have value in our life, I wonder, am I putting the emphasis on those things that really have the most value? Family, my testimony, the church, those people I teach. Where am I putting my focus, and what am I using my time, talents, and energies for? Okay? And I want to bear you my testimony that is one of the most important missions of BYU Idaho. That is to help educate folks like you to go out into the workforce with testimonies and with the Spirit and make a difference. Make a difference. Because you value things differently than the rest of the world. And that's going to be very important. Because as the rest of the world sees what you value, they will be drawn to you. Okay? You're awesome. This course has been awesome. You've done a really big thing. You have now tackled what I think is the hardest 2-credit class, 100-level class you will ever take. So pat yourself on the back. You're awesome. And I have a lot of hope for you. Okay? And I think you're going to do great. In healthcare, whatever you're going to do. All right? The church is true. And I will talk to you maybe sometime. Shoot me an email if you want. Whatever. Let me know what you're doing in the future. Have a good one.